Chapter 3809. Yu Lord's pupils started to slacken. In the blur, he could faintly see a young lady landing in front of him, her clothes fluttering in the wind, like a red lotus. She gave him a light smile. Thick profound energy and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth that lingered around her body covered her beautiful face. Yu Lord was unresigned and wanted to open his mouth. But what followed was unbearable pain. Before he fell into darkness, Yu Lord only had time to see those 5 battle pets baring their fangs and brandishing their claws, opening their mouths, revealing their sharp fangs as they pounced towards him. At the same time, Yiqing Luo saw Yu Lord shut his eyes. In front of her eyes, there was an instant of fierceness. The short moment of dizziness and loss of strength made her petite body sway slightly. Her breathing, which was treading in the air, was also slightly unstable. She forced herself to stay conscious, trying to stabilize her state of mind. But the moment she took a breath, the profound heart jade in his chest fiercely surged out, and an intense pain was felt. That pain made it difficult for her to breathe. Ugh! Along with the pain intensified. She didn't have any extra consciousness to maintain her body. Her petite body suddenly went limp as she fell from midair. Yiqing Luo didn't even have the energy to let her battle pets come over to receive her. Suddenly, her falling body was hooked by someone's waist. The elegant sandalwood scent, mixed with an obvious blood stench, seeped into her nostrils. Immediately, that person's large palm pressed on her chest. A warm, profound energy, like a spring, poured into her body. This energy was very gentle. Bit by bit, it dispersed the pain in her body. Her breathing calmed down a little. Her head was still a little giddy. "It's all right, it's over." The man's mellow and gentle voice rang beside her ear. It was accompanied by the man's warmth, enveloping her entire body. The next moment, her pink lips were captured by someone. The warm touch, gentle and affectionate. Yiqing Luo was stunned and was just about to ridicule. This man was actually so anxious. She had just ended the battle, covered in blood and in a state of exhaustion, but he still didn't forget to take advantage of her. However, the medicinal fragrance that floated into her mouth made her stop vomiting. The man used his tongue to push the pill into her mouth and left her lips. His broad and warm palm gently covered her head. The pill entered his throat and entered his body. Yiqing Luo smiled, her pale face was filled with weakness. Between her slightly opened brows, there was a hint of coquettishness. Between the pupils, reflecting the man's magnificent beauty, she smiled even more happily. "It seems that my body has really overloaded." With that, he sighed again. She raised her arm and hooked it around the man's neck. "Didn't I say that I would let you enjoy the feeling of being protected by me? But now, I'm being protected by you instead." Dmo Xian held her wrist and pulled her into his arms. "No, I'm protected. My little Luo, is really great." Yiqing Luo's eyes curved into a smile. The exhaustion of her body made her smile a little weak. Dmo Xian pressed her head into his arms and comforted her softly. "Take a rest first, I'm here, don't worry." Yiqing Luo rubbed her head against his chest, smelling the familiar and reassuring scent. Indeed, it made her exhausted body and mind relax. The moment she relaxed, she felt dizzy and heavy. Just at this moment, suddenly, the 5 battle pets all gave a hurried beast roar. Chapter 3810. Dmo Xian looked towards the direction of the voice. The person in his arms also raised her head in a daze from the commotion as she rested her chin on Dmo Xian's body as she looked over. In the auction, everyone was concentrating their attention on that battle on the screen. They saw Lord Yu lying on the ground, on his last breath. Various powerhouses cultivators couldn't help but started cheering. There were even some who started shouting, "Long live Madame D, long live Overlord," etc. Yu Jiwen was also watching this scene. She couldn't move nor was she able to make a sound. But she was conscious as she saw Yiqing Luo defeating Lord Yu. She saw those people displaying agitation and respect towards Yiqing Luo. Her heart was going crazy with jealousy. Just as everyone was raising their arms and cheering, suddenly, they saw 5 battle pets howling towards the direction of Lord Yu, who was on his last breath. Before they could see clearly what had happened, the sky suddenly flashed with lightning and thunder. The image in the sky was also shattered by the thunder and lightning. In an instant, it disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. What's going on? Why can't we see anything? What on earth happened? Why can't we see the Overlord's consciousness space? Did he meet with some danger? Earlier, what was Madame D's battle pets reminding us about? Why did the scene stop? Surely not, surely not. Some unforeseen event has happened? The moment the scene disappeared towards the unknown, everyone started to feel uneasy. Rumble, all of a sudden, the entire building of the auction hall shook violently. The ground started to sink downwards, slowly collapsing down. Everyone was shocked as they immediately stabilized their bodies. But they saw a black glow swiftly enveloping over from the horizon. It was like a huge dark cloud, enveloping everything. You all. Look over there. Some cultivators with sharp eyes saw the abnormality in the pitch-black sky as they immediately opened their mouths to remind them. Everyone saw a ball of thick, like black smoke, enveloping a huge lump of something as it descended from the sky. Between the floating smoke, everyone could vaguely tell that it was a man's figure. Boom! That man's body exploded with a thick sinister chi. Then, his body spun rapidly in the air. That's Yuzun. Someone recognized the man's face and cried out in shock. Wasn't the Dark Prime beaten to the brink of death by Lady Monarch in Zun's consciousness space? Why would he appear here? Moreover, what was that layer of thick black chi on his body that made people shudder? No one had time to think about it. As the Nether Prime spun faster and faster, the sky seemed to be spinning into a huge whirlpool. The vortex was surging with dense evil energy. The terrifying and majestic power seemed to want to devour everything in the world. Swish, 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 the whirlpool surged and suddenly, drops of liquid dripped down. Someone was hit by the liquid. When he touched it, he discovered that it was actually blood. The profound practitioners were still somewhat puzzled. Why would there be blood rain in this vortex? But soon, they got their answer. When the thick blood followed the surging whirlpool and spilled on the ground, Yi Qingtang's eyes widened. The surroundings began to shake violently and collapse. Gravel flew everywhere. The entire auction was gradually being destroyed at an extremely fast speed. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness actually used such a ruthless formation. Chapter 38:11. When Xiao Yinyan heard this, he raised his head and looked at Gui Wu. You know about this array? The original intention of the Palace of Darkness to set up this array was to trap the elites of the Earth domain here. Either you join the Palace of Darkness, or you die in the array. Gui Wu waved his sleeves. A transparent barrier enveloped all the profounders from the various powers. When the rubble fell, it was bounced back by the barrier. He continued, I think, it should be student Yi Qing Luo who forced the Palace of Darkness too much, and the Palace of Darkness intends to make everyone disappear along with the auction. Xiao Yinyan was stunned. Disappear? Gui Wu nodded. Yes, disappear. His expression became more solemn. If we are unable to break the array, all of us will be swallowed by this array and disappear together. This. How is this possible? Pei Xing squeezed over, his face filled with astonishment. Sprinkling some blood can make the array swallow us? His blood is not an ordinary cultivator's blood, but a rare high-leveled cultivator's blood. Gui Wu said, moreover, the Palace of Darkness has always used a sinister forbidden secret art to set up this array. And using the blood as a medium, to activate the array. Gui Wu's voice deepened. The reason why the forbidden secret art is forbidden, is because, once it is activated, the casualties and losses are extremely serious. This array was originally sinister. In all directions, there were evil yin qi lingering around. Those whose minds were unstable would be affected by this evil yin qi. Now, with the addition of a high-leveled cultivator's blood as a medium, and using the forbidden art to activate the array. If they didn't break the array, then they could only be swallowed by this array. Gue Wu's voice wasn't loud, but it wasn't soft either. The various powerhouses' cultivators mostly heard some of it. All of their expressions changed. They looked at the huge stone buildings which fell from the sky in horror, and looked at the shaking and collapsing ground beneath their feet. Their faces were filled with panic. Indeed so. Suddenly, a deep and dignified voice rang. It was a very soft, very low voice, but it revealed a dignified manner which made one unable to help but bow down to it. Immediately, everyone saw that the sky, which was covered by the thick black qi, slowly revealed a gap. The profound light was like the blossoming sun, parting the clouds and seeping out. Two figures walked out from the light. It's the Overlord. And Madame D. The profound practitioners were wild with joy as they looked at the two people who had appeared. Their eyes flickered with the light of hope. Qiao Yinyan, Pei Sheng, and the others immediately looked over. When he saw the red-clothed girl, her skirt fluttering in the wind, the dazzling light refracting under the dark light. His heart, which had been hanging in the air, was finally at ease. Previously through the images, he saw Yi Qing Luo falling into Dmo Xian's arms. They were all extremely worried. Now that he saw Yi Qing Luo safe and sound, they were finally relieved. The person who spoke just now was Dmo Xian. His gaze was deep as he looked at Yu Zun, who was wrapped in thick black gas. His thin lips pursed slightly. This is going to be troublesome. The girl beside him raised her head slightly. Her slightly pale face carried a noble and elegant smile like that of a fairy from the 9 heavens. Chapter 38:12. Dmo Xian's eyes drooped as he looked at Yi Qing Luo lovingly. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose as she met his gaze with a smile. You're so noble and bright, but that person is a rat in the gutter, how can you be compared? Dmo Xian's brows overflowed with a smile as his voice was deep and magnetic. What Madame said is extremely true. The word Madame made Yi Qing Luo's cheeks blush slightly. Her heart was thumping uncontrollably. Even the fatigue on her body had dissipated by quite a bit. The two of them landed outside the enchantment which Gue Wu and the others had conjured. Gue Wu took a look at Yi Qing Luo and frowned as he asked, "What's going on?" Yi Qing Luo shook her head, expressing her daze. Speaking of what was going on, she was also very curious about what had happened. At that time, she was exhausted and rested in Dmo Xian's arms for a while. Then she heard her little companion's warning howls. She and Dmo Xian looked towards the direction of the sound. They were only able to see. Yu Zun, who had no strength to resist, was actually swept away by a ball of dense evil qi. That gust of evil qi, without any warning, dashed out of Dmo Xian's consciousness space. She and Dmo Xian rushed out of the consciousness space in time, only to see this scene in front of them. Your body. Gue Wu's brows creased even tighter. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she interrupted his words. I'm fine, just exhausted, too much energy. I'll be fine after a short rest. She glanced sideways and looked at Dmo Xian's side profile as she said half jokingly and half seriously, I'm someone who wants to protect my man, I won't fall so easily. Dmo Xian's large palm hugged her tightly. Can you stop showing off your affection at this critical juncture? Zhou Mo rolled his eyes. Yi Qing Luo glanced at him sideways. You make it sound like, at this critical juncture, you didn't pull my kitty to show off your affection. She took a glance at Zhou Mo's hand which was wrapped around Kitty Li's waist. Kitty Li was like an exploding kitten as she suddenly bounced out from Zhou Mo's arms. Her little body immediately dashed towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Kitty Li won't show off her affection with a frivolous man. Zhou Mo, who had lost his warm and fragrant body. Damn it, I shouldn't have said so much. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she stroked Kitty Li's little head, then raised her head and looked at the array barrier, at those cultivators who were looking at her and Dmo Xian with a hopeful expression. His gaze finally landed on the executive elder. Our top priority now is to break this formation and leave the auction. Yiqing Luo opened her mouth and her tone was very steady and extremely dignified. Moreover, we don't have much time left. This auction will be swallowed up very soon, and if we are not able to break the array before it is completely swallowed up, then all of us will be buried along with the auction. The profound practitioners of the various great forces gritted their teeth. We will definitely cooperate with the Imperial Madam if you have any ideas. I don't have a solution. When Yiqing Luo said this sentence, everyone's eyes were filled with disappointment. However, her next words immediately followed. However, there will soon be a way to break out of the formation. But before that, I want all of you to protect your own lives. The various powerhouses' cultivators' emotions were like a roller coaster. When they heard Yiqing Luo's last sentence, all of them were almost touched. Chapter 38:13. Yiqing Luo didn't want their gratitude. If you can't even protect your own life, then you deserve to die here. The profound practitioners of the major forces all wore different expressions on their faces. She was embarrassed and embarrassed. Alright, they thought too highly of themselves. They really thought that Yiqing Luo was worried about them. Yiqing Luo ignored their thoughts. She stood side by side with Dmo Xian, looking at Yuzun, who was wrapped in black qi. Blood was still splattering. It was as if it wanted to suck all the blood from the Dark Lord's body dry. She frowned slightly and asked in a low voice, Yuzun is the young master of Tenyu Palace. Are the people behind Tenyu Palace really willing to sacrifice their own son? Over at the Palace of Secluded Darkness, would there be the so-called willing and unwilling emotions? Dmo Xian lowered his eyes to look at her, his thin lips raised slightly. Yiqing Luo shook her head, no. It was said that even a vicious tiger would not eat its cubs. The people behind the scenes of the Dark Abyss Palace were inhumane. No matter what, they would protect their own son. Who could have thought that, in order to achieve his goal, he would even sacrifice his own son? I followed the mutated beasts and found the medium to control the corpse puppet goo. Through that medium, I think I should be able to find the formation core. Yiqing Luo recalled what had happened before she was forcefully dragged into the consciousness space by Yuzun. She held on to Dmo Xian's arm. Xian, let's go over there to take a look. Dmo Xian looked at the young lady's extremely pale face. His brows were filled with heartache. Can you hold on? Yiqing Luo smiled at him. Even you can hold on. I'm just a little tired, so naturally I can hold on. Dmo Xian's eyes flickered slightly. Don't even think of rebutting. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and her slender fingers gently pressed on his chest. Her fingertips slowly circled around his chest. The smell of blood on your body can't be concealed. Dmo Xian was injured. This was something that Yiqing Luo knew from the start. And then, because of her, Dmo Xian suffered another palm strike. The injuries on his body were not lighter than hers. Dmo Xian's eyelashes trembled slightly. He smiled faintly and then sighed, as if there was nothing he could do. His shimmering peach blossom eyes seemed to be filled with a pool of spring water, extremely doting. The girl also raised her head slightly, and her long and narrow eyes curved upwards, outlining an exquisite and flirtatious flower pattern. Her red dress made her look even more like a blazing sun. The two of them stared at each other. The entire atmosphere of the battlefield was filled with danger. They were all affected by the atmosphere. It was as if they could only see each other in this world. It could no longer accommodate anyone else. When Zhu Wuxin followed the aura and rushed over, this was the scene he saw. His hurried footsteps suddenly came to a halt. His pitch-black eyes stared fixedly at the picturesque scene in front of him. The rare irritation on his face slowly disappeared from his eyes. He just looked at Yiqing Luo. He looked at the gentleness in the girl's eyes and the obvious love. There were no ripples in his eyes. However, his entire body exuded a gloomy and sorrowful aura that no one could ignore. After a long while, he clenched his fists. He allowed his nails to embed into his palm. Red Clarity Pavilion. Pavilion Master? Suddenly, someone cried out in surprise with a tone of reverence. This voice attracted quite a number of people's gazes. Qiao Yimian and Pei Xing also looked over. Chapter 38:14. From that image, when he saw the battle between Yiqing Luo and Lord Yu, Qiao Yimian started to suspect Zhu Wu Xian. But when Qiao Yimian walked closer to Zhu Wu Xian, he saw the emotions which he couldn't restrain in time. The words which were at the tip of his tongue were stuck in his throat. What kind of gaze was that? He couldn't use words to describe it. More accurately, very few people were able to see the extremely faint emotions in Zhu Wu Xian's eyes. Only those who had the same experience were able to see the emotions under the calmness. Right. Aren't you with Ah Luo? Why did you only appear now? Pei Xing followed closely behind. His dark golden eyes were filled with displeasure as he looked at Zhu Wu Xian. Qiao Yimian raised his hand, blocking Pei Xing's interrogation. He raised his eyes and saw the sweat on Zhu Wu Xian's forehead. He should be very anxious. To be able to make the legendary mysterious powerhouse, Red Clear Pavilion's Pavilion Master sweat and pant slightly. It was enough to prove that Zhu Wu Xian had rushed over at the fastest speed after he sensed Yiqing Luo's presence. His concern towards Yiqing Luo was no less than theirs. Moreover, in the depths of Zhu Wu Xian's eyes, that undetectable emotion. It was obvious that Zhu Wu Xian had feelings for Yiqing Luo. What were you doing earlier? Did you see the image of Ah Luo in the space of consciousness? Qiao Yimian asked. Zhu Wu Xian's gaze didn't shift away from Yiqing Luo. His thin lips moved slightly as he replied, I saw it. Secluded Palace's motive is very obvious. I hope that at this moment, you can put aside the grudges between you and the Overlord. If the both of you work together, you will definitely be able to break this array. Qiao Yimian said. Chu Wuxin's gaze finally shifted to him. That gaze was like frost. Qiao Yimian's brows creased tightly, but he wasn't scared off by that gaze as he persisted. The battle in the space of consciousness has already exhausted Ah Luo's energy. You also want to end this chaotic battle earlier, right? If we drag on, this auction will be swallowed by the array. All of us will die here, including Ah Luo. Qiao Yimian specially added the last 4 words. But he didn't get Zhu Wu Xian's reply. He pursed his lips and was about to speak. The red-robed man turned around and walked towards Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian's direction. Before he left, he said, there's no need for him. I alone am enough. He didn't need a venerable sovereign. Qiao Yimian was startled as he looked at Zhu Wuxin's back. He was in a trance for a moment. It was as if his memories had returned to a long time ago, the memories that he had sealed away. The surrounding cultivators' exclamations naturally attracted Yiqing Luo's attention. Yiqing Luo naturally detected Zhu Wu Xian's approach. She gently stroked Dmo Xian's hand, motioning him not to be jealous. He quickly turned around and looked at Zhu Wuxin. Do you still remember the position of that vine just now? If we follow that direction, we might be able to find the eye of the formation. Yes. Chu Wuxin's eyes met hers, and he looked at her face without blinking. Then, he said word by word, you owe me another favor. Yiqing Luo had yet to react to the meaning behind his words. Zhu Wuxin had already leapt into the air. The blazing red robe was like a burning flame. His sleeves moved. Boundless profound energy spread out in all directions. Chapter 38:15. The auction, which was collapsing ceaselessly, also stopped its restlessness because of this. Various powerhouses' cultivators felt that the ground beneath their feet was no longer shaking as they heaved a sigh of relief. One by one, their gazes were all gathered on Zhu Wu Xian. Yiqing Luo also raised her head as she looked at Zhu Wu Xian. She was still wondering what Zhu Wu Xian's intention was. His gaze didn't even have time to land on Zhu Wuxin. Her wrist was grasped by a broad and thick palm. Immediately after, she was pulled into the man's warm and firm embrace. Her head was pressed onto his chest by the man's large palm. Above her head, the man's slightly dissatisfied voice floated down. Eyes, where are you looking at? Yi Qing Luo was pressed into his arms and had no way to raise her head as her voice sounded a little dull. I'm looking at what he wants to do. What can he do? Snatch the limelight. Dmo Xian scoffed disapprovingly as he suppressed his voice with an overbearing CEO's tone. If he wants to snatch, let him snatch. Anyway, if your eyes don't look at him, then he's a loser. Yi Qing Luo, what on earth was this? What snatched the limelight? She was only curious why Zhu Wu Xian said that he owed him another favor. Her man was suddenly jealous? Yi Qing Luo ridiculed in her heart. She heard the man's chilly voice. Why? Very worried about him? Want to help him? Yi Qing Luo? At this juncture, wasn't it the time to be jealous? Furthermore, normally speaking, worrying was also normal. No matter what, Zhu Wu Xian was considered as her friend. But in front of Dmo Xian's gloomy face, Yi Qing Luo naturally didn't dare to say these words. She only rubbed her little head against his chest as she explained in a gentle voice. Before I was swept into the consciousness space, I used the strange beast to search for the direction of the array core. Zhu Wu Xian was there too, so I was thinking. If he had found the array core after I was swept into the consciousness space. Ha! The man who floated down from above her head gave a cold snort. Yi Qing Luo wanted to say something but heard him continuing. He's already found it, so you don't need to worry. He found it? Yi Qing Luo struggled for a moment and used her little head to push against his hand. I just want to take a look at the situation and absolutely don't have any other thoughts. In my heart and in my eyes, the only person I can see is my dearest Xian. The man's aura softened a little. The giant palm above his head retracted decisively. Yi Qing Luo. So he was just trying to make her act coquettishly and act cute, calling him a few nice words? This man, how childish. However, it was so childish that she felt sweet in her heart. Yi Qing Luo pushed his hand away as she raised her head and looked towards Zhu Wu Xian's direction. Zhu Wuxin spread open his arms, suddenly stretching out his 5 fingers. Then, a shrill howl was heard. Yi Qing Luo saw a round bulging thing which Zhu Wu Xian had grabbed onto. It was oval in shape, like an egg. On the left and right sides of the egg, there was a small thing sticking out. Below the egg, there were 2 thin things. It kept on fluttering about. It even gave out a robotic voice, screaming at the top of its lungs. Just when she saw that little thing clearly, Yi Qing Luo was stunned. That, wasn't that the strange beast's original body? Chapter 38:16. Yi Qing Luo heard the mournful cries for help. 3 black lines appeared on her forehead. It really was Shadow's egg. Abnormal beast ball. Why did it turn into its original form and was caught by Zhu Wu Xian? What did Zhu Wu Xian want to do by catching the strange beast? She was still wondering. A man's light voice was heard from behind. He should be intending to make use of the strange beast to find the direction of the array I. Yi Qing Luo was stunned. What do you mean? Now that the array has been activated in advance because of Lord Yu's blood, in order to find the array I, we need to make use of the strange beast's characteristics. Dmo Xian said, but under this kind of profound cultivator's blood and secret arts, as long as the strange beast touches the array I'm afraid it will be swallowed by the evil qi. Yi Qing Luo's pupils suddenly widened. That was Shadow's contracted war pet. Moreover, the mutant beast had come here to help her. She immediately dashed towards Zhu Wu Xian's direction. Zhu Wu Xian, wait. The young lady's clear voice made Zhu Wu Xian's body stiffened. Immediately after, the strange beast in his hand was scooped over by the young lady. Wah, heroine. That scared the ball. The strange beast was so frightened that it pounced into Yi Qing Luo's arms and wailed loudly. That mechanical voice sounded a little ear-piercing when it cried. Yi Qing Luo grabbed the ball's thin hand and hung it up. Don't cry. Be quiet. The strange beast twitched, feeling aggrieved. It almost became a test subject and yet it didn't cry. This was too much of a bully. Yiqing Luo raised her head and looked at Zhu Wu Xian. This ugly beast is my friend's war pet. Moreover, these strange beasts specially rushed over to help me. Although they are ugly, but we can't use their lives to find the array I. Originally those strange beasts looked at Yiqing Luo gratefully. When they heard Yiqing Luo's sentence, the oval-shaped sharp tip started to emit a dark and heavy qi. Don't ask her how she could tell gratitude from an egg. Anyway, she could tell. Zhu Wu Xian's action was stopped. He frowned slightly and looked at her with heavy eyes. It can draw out the eye of the array. It can help, but it cannot harm your life. This was Yiqing Luo's bottom line. If she used the lives of her companions who had come to help her in exchange for a chance for her to live, then she would not be able to do so. She definitely couldn't do it. Zhu Wu Xian pursed his lips as he stared at Yiqing Luo for a long time before replying coldly, up to you. Then, he turned his head. He fiercely clapped his hands forward, and a majestic wave of profound energy, like a surging wave, smashed away the surging black energy. The Nether Prime's body, which was wrapped in the black aura, also shook for a moment. Then, Chu Wuxin sent out a palm strike. Chapter 38:17. At the moment she saw that old man, Yiqing Luo was stunned for a moment. She naturally recognized that vine. It was the vine which she saw before she was swept into the consciousness space. Did Zhu Wuxin find the person controlling the vines by following the broken half of the vine? Which meant the goo master who controlled tens of thousands of corpse puppet goo. If she found the goo master, then she would definitely be able to find the location of the array's eye. Young Patriarch Chu, spare me. Spare me. The old man hung in Zhu Wu Xian's hands as he begged in fear. Zhu Wu Xian's dark eyes glanced at him indifferently. His 5 fingers suddenly exerted force. The old man cried out miserably. Using his actions, he rejected the old man's begging. The old man's entire body twitched in pain. That vine, which was filled with densely packed wormholes, seemed as though it was going to break at any moment. He knew Zhu Wu Xian's character very well and knew that if he fell into Zhu Wu Xian's hands, there was no way he could survive. A glint flashed in the depths of his eyes. The vines twisted and he said painfully, "Young Master Chu, you promised to let me go. You promised not to interfere in this matter on account of the fact that you and the Palace of Darkness are partners. How can you go back on your words?" The old man's voice was filled with despair and pleading. It was mixed with agonizing howls. His voice was extremely loud. Almost all the various powerhouses cultivators heard it. His words instantly caused the crowd to burst into an uproar. Red Clear Pavilion's Pavilion Master and Secluded Darkness Palace were partners? Then, which side was he helping? The crowd whispered to each other. The person involved was expressionless as he looked at the old man indifferently. But there wasn't any fluctuation in his eyes at all. He totally had no intention to explain. He didn't explain and the old man continued, "Secluded Darkness Palace has already promised young Patriarch Chu that we will do anything for you unconditionally. Young Patriarch Chu, aren't you afraid that you will chill the hearts of those who believe in you by going back on your words?" He seemed to be implying something as he turned his head with difficulty and looked towards Yiqing Luo. From the start till the end, Zhu Wu Xian had no intention to explain at all. He totally had no intention to stop the old man. That expressionless face made it hard to tell what he was thinking in his heart. Under the crowd's pointing and discussions, Yiqing Luo, who sensed the old man's gaze, creased her brows slightly. There were already people who were unable to restrain the terror in the depths of their hearts, their brows tightly knitted as they shouted, "Hongqing Pavilion Master, shouldn't you give us a reasonable explanation? Since you're from the Dark Palace, why are you here? We thought you were here to help us. Master of the Red Clear Pavilion, you owe us an explanation." What are you trying to do? One of them spoke. The other profound practitioners were also unable to restrain themselves. Countless voices came from all directions. However, it didn't cause any ripples in Zhu Wuxin's emotions. He didn't even look at the people who were questioning him. It was as if it had stopped everything around it. He didn't place anyone in his eyes. He said nothing. In the eyes of the crowd, it was a tacit agreement. The voices of accusation grew louder. The more Yiqing Luo listened, the tighter her slender brows knitted. He couldn't help but tighten his grip on Qiuqiu. This caused Qiuqiu to cry out loudly. "Shut up." She frowned and said impatiently. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was dignified and dignified. She was obviously saying it to Qiuqiu. But it made the surrounding voices of discussion to quieten down completely. Hearing her voice, Zhu Wuxin, who had been indifferent all this while, lifted his head and looked at her. Meeting Zhu Wuxian's gaze. Chapter 38:18. Since she had already suppressed everyone's voices, she might as well go along with the current silent atmosphere as she calmly looked at the old man. "You said, Zhu Wuxian agreed to spare your life?" The old man saw her reaction and immediately cried out loudly, "He's a collaborator of Gloomy Palace and he can go back on his words and lay his hands on me. Not to mention the two of you. Who knows, he might even bite you guys in return." When the old man finished his words, Zhu Wuxian's gaze had a slight change. Very faint, so faint that one couldn't detect it at all. His gaze looked at Yiqing Luo without blinking, as though he was waiting for her reaction. Yiqing Luo met Zhu Wuxian's eyes just like that. Following that, she slowly shifted her gaze onto the old man's face as her tone was calm and indifferent. "Unfortunately, I don't believe a single word that you say." The complacent look in the old man's eyes instantly froze. Whereas Zhu Wuxian's eyes, which had always been calm and without any ripples, at this instance, the depths of his eyes seemed to be blossoming with a riot of colors. Even his cold and thin lips curled up into an extremely shallow arc. Yiqing Luo continued, "Because, I know better than you what kind of person Zhu Wuxian is. He disdains to deceive you, and disdains to use lies to deceive anyone." Her lips curled as her smile was filled with ridicule, using this kind of low-level instigation method, trying in vain to sow discord between Zhu Wuxian and me before you die. You've really put in a lot of effort. But, do you really think that everyone in this world is like you? An idiot? The old man's pupils suddenly constricted. His eyes stared intently at Yiqing Luo as he secretly clenched his teeth tightly. Yiqing Luo gave a cold laugh. "As compared to your Gloomy Palace, this bunch of sinister rats, I naturally believe in Zhu Wuxian more." The old man's teeth were grinding so hard that they creaked. Immediately following that, his eyes turned cold as a burst of murderous intent shot out. He suddenly stretched out his hand and pressed it against his chest, grabbing onto the vine which emerged from his body. At the next instant, Yiqing Luo felt a gust of cold wind assaulting her back. The surrounding people drew in a breath of cold air as they cried out in shock. Yiqing Luo's body had already subconsciously made an instinctive reaction. Suddenly she turned sideways. Bang! What greeted him was a chilling wind that seeped into one's bones. Yiqing Luo retreated swiftly. However, the cold wind still brushed past his shoulder. When she saw who it was, she was stunned. Yujiwen? In front of him, the person with her arm in a sling, walking like a zombie with a bloody face, wasn't that Yujiwen? Towards Yiqing Luo's voice, Yujiwen had no reaction at all. She was like a zombie, shaking her body as she pounced towards Yiqing Luo once again. His blood-stained face was devoid of any expression. Even his eyes were empty and lifeless. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and was just about to press on the place where the Yin wind had brushed past. The egg-like ball in her arms suddenly transformed into a big mouth in her arms. The sharp fangs and the stench in his mouth gushed into his nostrils. Yiqing Luo almost sent it flying with a slap. He would transform at the slightest disagreement. Who taught it? How disgusting. Yi Qing Luo's slap was about to fly out. Just like that, Qiuqiu's big tongue followed her hand and swept across, saliva, sticky her hand. Yi Qing Luo. This strange beast was very mischievous. Was it itching for a beating? Chapter 38:19. Corpse Puppet Parasite. Yi Qing Luo's pupils suddenly contracted. In her mind, she seemed to have understood something. Ugly, is that woman controlled by the corpse puppet parasite? Yi Qing Luo stared at Yu Jiwen as she asked. Qiu rolled its big tongue, yes, yes. Earlier when she touched you, she even threw the corpse puppet parasite on you. Luckily I'm around, there's nothing to be afraid of. Qiu's tone was filled with pride. If it had a tail, it would definitely be wagging its buttocks. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes as she stared at Yu Jiwen. Following that, her gaze shot towards the old man's direction. That old man's final attack. It infuriated Zhu Wu Xian. Zhu Wu Xian directly struck his palm on the old man's chest. It also forcefully chopped off the vine. The old man howled in pain. The vine was like a part of his body. And it was the most important part. Fresh blood came from the deepest part of his body. That skinny face, which was only left with bones, turned increasingly lifeless. But Zhu Wu Xian still left him with one last breath. Right now, he was hanging on Zhu Wu Xian's palm, but his eyes were filled with a sliver of unwillingness and resentment. As though he hadn't expected his final plan. To be destroyed by a useless strange beast. Yi Qing Luo frowned. Looked like Yu Jiwen was already dead. Her body had become the corpse puppet parasite's vessel. This was a little troublesome. Hiding in Yu Jiwen's body. Unless the strange beast swallowed Yu Jiwen's body together. Otherwise, the corpse puppet parasite hiding in Yu Jiwen's body would be hard to resolve. Bam! The Yu Jiwen, in front of him, waved its arms over again. It didn't stop its control just because the vine was broken. Make the corpse puppet parasite stop. Zhu Wu Xian opened his mouth coldly. But the old man spat out, unyielding. And because of this series of episodes, the black qi which had stopped because of Zhu Wu Xian, once again wrapped Yu Zun, who was floating in midair. Following that, the entire auction house once again fell into an earth-shaking destruction. Everyone screamed in panic. Yi Qing Luo was shaken by the surrounding airflow as her body was on the verge of collapse, unable to stand stably. Yu Jiwen was still attacking her. With every attack, Qiuqiu's tongue would sweep across. It could be seen that Yu Jiwen had made up her mind to use the corpse puppet goo to control her. Yi Qing Luo took a look at the chaotic auction. Then, he looked in the direction of the Dark Prime. She pursed her lips, and her gaze finally landed on Xiao Yinyan. Yinyan, let the mutated beast hold Yu Jiwen back. It's best if we can find a way to force the corpse puppet goo out of her body. As she spoke, she tossed the ball in Xiao Yinyan's direction. In the current situation, only mutated beasts were the nemesis of the corpse puppet goo. At the critical moment, Qiuqiu was quite impressive. At the same time, when Yi Qing Luo threw it to Xiao Yinyan, it shouted at the top of its lungs and used the voice of the mutant beast to summon a group of companions. More than a dozen mutant beasts surrounded Yu Jiwen. Yi Qing Luo took the opportunity and speedily headed towards Zhu Wu Xian's direction. The moment she moved, his wrist tightened. She was pulled back by the man's arm. Her petite body crashed into Dmo Xian's arms. She heard the man's low and hoarse voice, "Why?" Still intending to run towards him? Yi Qing Luo raised her head and met the man's deep eyes. "We must force the direction of the array core from that old man's mouth." Chapter 38:20. Yi Qing Luo, this was not the time to be jealous, was it? However, Dmo Xian's peerless countenance was very indifferent, even his voice was a little low and dull. He lowered his head and rested his chin on the girl's shoulder. "What? You can't explain it?" Yi Qing Luo felt that this voice was very cold. It was so cold that she was shivering. Yiqing Luo raised her head and met Dmo Xian's indifferent gaze. She didn't quite understand what Dmo Xian meant. Generally speaking, Dmo Xian's expression of jealousy belonged to him acting coquettishly and seeking to be appeased. But he would never disregard the occasion and the situation. Because of the trust between them, there was no need for any words or words at all. Therefore, she would cooperate with him and say what he liked and wanted to hear. But this time, Dmo Xian's emotions were obviously not quite right. His almond-shaped eyes, which had always shone brightly, were now covered with a very, very thin layer of mist, making it impossible to see his emotions. She only felt that his emotions were very cold. Ah, Xian? She pursed her lips and held the hand on her waist. She changed her posture and faced the man. Dmo Xian held onto her slender waist. He held her firmly in his arms. His thin lips slightly hooked, but there was no smile. I really don't like the way he looks at you. Dmo Xian's eyes drooped as he hugged the person in his arms tightly. Naturally, he knew. The person in his arms had feelings for him. He also knew little Luo's attitude towards Zhu Wu Xian. However, when he saw Zhu Wu Xian's gaze towards Lil Luo, no matter how much he wanted to appear magnanimous and broad-minded, however, he still couldn't help but feel displeased. Such emotions, he should not let Lil Luo know. But when he saw Lil Luo trust Zhu Wu Xian without any hesitation, when he saw Zhu Wu Xian looking at Lil Luo with that glowing gaze, the emotions that had been suppressed in his heart couldn't be contained anymore. He did not mind showing such emotions to Lil Luo. I really don't want to. Dmo Xian suddenly loosened his grip on Yiqing Luo. He lowered his head. His black hair flew in the air and fell on both sides of his face. It concealed the emotions on his face. He took 2 steps back. His body exuded an indifferent and cold feeling. Ah, Xian. Yiqing Luo naturally noticed the change in Dmo Xian's emotions. Dmo Xian raised his head and curled his thin lips at her before shaking his head. Nothing, I just feel that this limelight cannot be allowed to be brought out by him alone. He chuckled and looked in Zhu Wu Xian's direction. Then, he walked towards Zhu Wuxin. My own woman has to be protected by myself. He was just about to take a step. Suddenly, he felt a soft and delicate body behind him. The girl wrapped her arms around his waist. She pressed her face against his back. Ah, Xian, I am very happy that you have such negative emotions because of me. The girl's voice was very soft and gentle. Clearly, she understood the reason for the change in his mood. She patiently stroked his fur. You have to protect me for the rest of my life. After that, you'll have to help me repay Zhu Wuxin's favor. With just a few words, the gloomy atmosphere in Dmo Xian's heart had completely dissipated. Listening to the girl's soft voice, his mood seemed to have turned better. Even the corners of his lips couldn't help but curl into an arc. Yiqing Luo let go of his waist and walked in front of him. Chapter 38-21. Looking at the smile on Dmo Xian's face, Yiqing Luo felt sweet in her heart. This large-sized dog-type pet had an extremely comfortable look when its fur was being smoothed. It made her unable to restrain her laughter. Since you've already decided not to let him be the only one in the limelight, then go ahead. Yiqing Luo took 2 steps back as she opened up a path, but promise me, you must not force yourself. Dmo Xian's expression had already regained its original lazy and confident look. His lips curled as he gave her a light smile. Her face was reflected in a pair of peach blossom eyes that were as black as ink. I know, you've already thought of a way to find the array. I believe you. Her understanding of Dmo Xian was the same as how Dmo Xian understood her. When she heard Dmo Xian saying, not willing to let Zhu Wu Xian be the only one in the limelight. Then thinking back to how he had expressed his dissatisfaction at this juncture. Dmo Xian wasn't someone who didn't know how to analyze the situation. He would do this. He definitely had a way to deal with it. Her words, once again made Dmo Xian's brows, tainted with a warm smile. He raised his hand as he rubbed Yiqing Luo's head. Following that, he leapt forward. Turning into a purple remnant shadow, he speedily neared Zhu Wu Xian. Zhu Wu Xian had been paying attention to Yiqing Luo's side, and on seeing Dmo Xian approaching, his eyes deepened. "What are you doing here?" Dmo Xian's side profile was more magnificent than ever before. His thin lips curled slightly as his peach blossom eyes were suffused with a faint cold intent. But he was smiling. His smile made one feel that it was dangerous and charming at the same time. "Leave the following matters to me." He opened his mouth as he wasn't courteous at all. Zhu Wu Xian scoffed lightly as his eyes turned slightly chilly. On what basis? The meaning behind his words. This was his credit, and he wanted Yiqing Luo to owe him a favor. On what basis did Dmo Xian have to make him hand over the result of his hard work the minute he opened his mouth? Dmo Xian tilted his head as his eyes turned sharp. "On the basis that I am the one whom Lil Luo likes." His words made Zhu Wu Xian's face turn black. But Dmo Xian didn't care. He curled his lips lazily and indifferently. "Just now, Lil Luo asked this noble one to help her repay your favor. I'm sure that you don't want this noble one to owe you a favor either. So, stay by yourself." That slightly complacent tone. This made Zhu Wu Xian's eyebrows jump. Clenching her fists, she could not help but want to smash Dmo Xian's face. He had to admit it. Dmo Xian's words. This truly dealt a blow to Zhu Wu Xian's heart. He couldn't refute Yiqing Luo's feelings towards Dmo Xian. There was no way to refute the fact that the person Yiqing Luo liked was Dmo Xian. And Yiqing Luo even let Dmo Xian repay the favor she owed him. This was obviously treating him as an outsider. As for Dmo Xian, he was one of them. Zhu Wuxin's emotions were clearly fluctuating. Dmo Xian's eyes were tinged with a smile. Handsome face, noble and elegant. His purple robe fluttered in the wind, making him look even more noble. Just at this moment, Dmo Xian suddenly moved. That old man who was originally held in Zhu Wu Xian's palm, had already fallen into Dmo Xian's hands. Zhu Wu Xian was stunned as his eyes turned chilly. "What do you mean?" "I don't need you for the rest," Dmo Xian said calmly, his side profile still showing an indifferent expression. Zhu Wu Xian's chilly eyes were instantly covered with a black glow. He stretched out his hand to snatch that old man away as his voice was filled with anger. "What if I say, I want you, the almighty overlord, to owe me a favor?" Chapter 38-22. Dmo Xian's words had just landed. A burst of raging profound energy surged wantonly. The old man was exchanged from Zhu Wu Xian's hands to Dmo Xian's. The pressure released when the two of them were fighting against each other. His last breath was almost cut off. He felt the surging profound energy from Dmo Xian. He was so shocked that his pupils regained some vigor. It was the vigor of excessive shock. No one was not afraid of death. They were even more afraid of being tortured to death. The reason why he was fearless. He wanted to force Zhu Wu Xian to settle him in a fit of anger. But Dmo Xian wouldn't. At a close distance, the old man could clearly see that Dmo Xian's eyes seemed calm, but in fact it was brewing a terrifying profound ray. An indescribable sense of fear invaded his body and mind. Dmo Xian's thin lips moved slightly. Two words were spat out from his lips. The old man felt as though there was an icy cold big hand tearing his body apart. Swish, a vine stretched out from his body. Dmo Xian directly grabbed that vine and pulled it hard. The old man cried out in pain. The blood vine, under the envelopment of Dmo Xian's profound ray, suddenly turned into a green-colored snake as it sped towards a certain direction in front. No. No. Looking at the direction where the vine was scuttling towards, the old man's eyes widened as he cried out in despair and indignation. The moment the two words came out, he felt a fishy sweetness surging up his throat. A mouthful of blood was spat out. His body then drooped down limply. He had no other energy. The array eye is over there. Yiqing Luo kept staring at that direction. The old man's attitude obviously proved that that direction was indeed where the array eye was located. She didn't hesitate as she followed the direction where the vine scuttled. The red figure left an afterimage on the horizon as it was faintly discernible. The red profound ray encircled her entire body. The entire sky, which was filled with dark clouds, was lit up by this red glow. Xiao Yimian, Pei Sheng, and the others exchanged glances, following closely behind. Yiqing Luo had not expected Dmo Xian to use such a simple and crude method to search for the array eye. Only Dmo Xian would be able to do it. Yiqing Luo had actually thought of this idea before. That vine was the spirit artifact of the witchcraft master's soul contract. Back then, witchcraft goo masters could use vines to control tens of thousands of corpse puppet goo through a formation. Therefore, she was certain from the start. As long as they found the Wu Gu master, they would definitely be able to find the formation core. It was just that, she didn't know how to use the vines of the witch Gu master to find the formation core. The cultivators from the major forces all rushed forward as they watched the big shots. No one bothered about Yuzun, who was enveloped by the dense black gas. They looked at each other for a moment. In the end, he decided to bear the pressure and follow the group of big shots. Although they were standing here, the barrier formed by the ghost martial artist was protecting them. But what if the barrier collapsed? The group of big shots was not around. They were in danger. It was safer to follow the boss. Hence, a large group of people chased after Yiqing Luo and the others on a large scale. The vines moved extremely quickly. It was like a green snake. This continued until they arrived at a rather remote and gloomy ruined courtyard. That vine stopped. Even the old witchcraft master who was being forcefully pulled was also pulled as he fell heavily onto the ground. Yiqing Luo slowly landed on the ground as her toes touched the ground and stabilized her body. Chapter 38-23. Is that the array eye? Yiqing Luo looked at that withered tree as her brows rose slightly. Dmo Xian stood behind as he looked over. Yes. How do we destroy that array eye? Yiqing Luo looked sideways at the man's side profile as she asked. Dmo Xian raised his hand and held her shoulders. Wait, there are helpers outside. Helpers? Yiqing Luo was puzzled. Who are you referring to? Dmo Xian smiled. You'll know when we get out. He was still keeping her in suspense. Looked like the helpers outside were people she knew. Gue Wu, Zhou Mo, and the rest were already in the array. Who else could help them? Moreover, the person who could help to break such a sinister array was definitely very powerful. She knew someone who was extremely powerful. Who could it be? Just as they were talking, a group of people had already chased up. Xiao Yinyan carried Xiao Qiu, who only had a mouth. His face didn't show any signs of disgust. When he saw that withered tree, he opened his mouth and asked, "Is that the array eye?" Destroy that array eye and the array will be destroyed, right? Pei Sheng said as he walked towards that withered tree. He even raised his hand as his dark golden pupils were filled with eagerness. Ah, Sheng, stop. Yiqing Luo berated sternly as she raised her hand to create a wave of profound wave, blocking Pei Sheng's hand. Pei Sheng was forced to retreat 2 steps as he looked at Yiqing Luo in a daze. Don't move, can't you see the dense evil qi lingering around the array eye? Yiqing Luo glanced at him. If it could be touched and destroyed at will. That wasn't the style of the secluded palace. Ah. Pei Sheng was stunned. Then what should we do? Yiqing Luo pursed her lips. Her vision shifted as she looked at the huge collapsing buildings. Her 5 fingers clenched even tighter. If she didn't speed up, this auction was really going to be swallowed by the array. The helpers that Xian mentioned, when would they take action? As though he sensed the fluctuation of her emotions. Dmo Xian's large palm patted lightly on her back, comforting her. Yiqing Luo raised her head and looked at the man beside her. Just as he was about to ask. At this moment, a wave of energy vibrated around the withered tree. Like a few invisible waves, they shook off the surrounding fluctuations. The vines that were entangled above were chopped into several pieces with a crackling sound. The Wugu master who was dying on the ground. Even cries of pain could be heard. Just as the vines broke. She closed her eyes forever. At the same time, the Yu Jiwen, who was being harassed by countless aberrations. His body fell straight to the ground. In the blink of an eye. The corpse turned into a pile of white bones. Then, everyone saw about 100 corpse puppet goo crawl out from the white bones and quickly crawl towards the witchcraft goo master on the ground. The profound practitioners of the various forces thought that these corpse puppet goo were using the same trick to control the goo master's body. But he didn't expect, in the blink of an eye. The Wu Goo master turned into a skeleton. He was swallowed into the stomach of the goo worm that he had raised. Qiao Yin immediately threw the ball in his hand towards the direction of the corpse puppet goo. The last corpse puppet goo, settle those first. The ball's tongue rolled up and its round body pounced towards the direction of the corpse puppet goo. Bam! Just as the aberrations were about to eat the last corpse puppet goo. That withered tree suffered a heavy blow. Chapter 38-24. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian were the closest. When the fluctuation was released, Qin Feng's eyes widened. The two of them retreated swiftly. Immediately following that, the majestic airwave, like a raging wave, surged violently. That withered tree shook more and more, as though it was about to crack. The whistling sound of the wind and waves slapped against everyone's eardrums. Yiqing Luo held Dmo Xian's arm, squinted her eyes and looked at the withered tree. Did the helper you mentioned take action? Dmo Xian nodded slightly. Yiqing Luo frowned tightly. To tell the truth. When he saw that everything around him had been overturned and collapsed by that boundless power, yet that withered tree did not move at all, he felt a chill run down his spine. Yiqing Luo could tell. It was not feasible to destroy the array I from the outside. But if they rashly took action, they would also be affected by the lingering sinister qi around the array I. How could they destroy this array I? Yiqing Luo was deep in thought. Perhaps the helper outside the array was a little too impatient. That withered tree shook violently. The originally withered tree branch, with a kacha sound, actually broke off. That broken branch rolled along with the strong wind. It wildly turned into a sharp blade, directly piercing towards Yiqing Luo's face. The speed of the sharp blade was extremely fast. And the lingering profound ray was very shocking, as though it was going to pierce through the sky. Yiqing Luo only had time to see a trace of silver edge, as it flashed past her eyes. A strong murderous intent, spread out in front of her. She wanted to dodge. But it was too late. Immediately, she raised her hand. Her 5 fingers moved, the glower flame fan opened up, blocking in front of her. Bam! The sharp end of the broken branch hit the glower flame fan. But the strength was not as big as she imagined. Sounds of cold air being sucked in were heard from the surrounding. There were also people who were faintly panicking, screaming, "Overlord!" Yiqing Luo's gaze moved, and saw in front of the glower flame fan, that broken branch, was firmly held in the palm of a large palm. It was Dmo Xian. He used his own hand to stop that broken branch. Yiqing Luo's pupils slightly widened. He stared at the broken branch in his hand, which was already bleeding. She quickly closes the glowing flame fan and hugs the man's arm with both hands. Ah Xian. In such a situation, it was not impossible for her to block it with the glowing flame fan. Furthermore, based on Dmo Xian's ability, even if he was injured, he could easily repel this broken branch. However, he chose to use the most direct, and also the most stupid method. Dmo Xian moved his fingers. He furrowed his brows slightly. Yiqing Luo's eyes almost turned red. Does it hurt? It doesn't hurt. Dmo Xian let go of the broken branch. His palm had already been scraped by the force of the broken branch. Flesh and blood flew everywhere, looking extremely horrifying. Yiqing Luo's eyes turned even redder as her words started to choke. Are you an idiot? Why are you blocking with your hand? Dmo Xian allowed her to hug his arm anxiously. He lowered his eyes to look at her with a doting gaze. Looking at her anxious and touched expression, he lowered his head again. His chin rested on her hair, the corners of his mouth twitched. Not knowing if it was because of the injury, his voice was a little deep, sounding very magnetic. I didn't think so much. Yiqing Luo didn't know how to answer for a moment. Concern causes confusion. The more worried a person is, at the most critical juncture, the more unable to keep calm. Almost could only rely on the body's instinct to move. Even the calm Dmo Xian. When he met with her, he was still unable to keep 100% calm. Chapter 38-25. Alright, it's just a small injury, it's nothing. Dmo Xian comforted her warmly. After we leave the auction, compensate me properly. Yiqing Luo was both angry and amused as she raised her head and stared at him furiously. You're still joking at such a time. Alright, be good, I'm fine. Dmo Xian replied. Yiqing Luo drew out a handkerchief and bandaged his injured hand. Bandaging it. Her gaze was suddenly fixed on the ground, on top of the broken branch. She was stunned as her bandaging hand also stopped. What's the matter? Dmo Xian asked puzzledly. Yiqing Luo pointed to the front. Look at that broken branch. That broken branch was intercepted by Dmo Xian's bare hands. Then he casually threw it onto the ground. If she didn't remember wrongly, that broken branch should have been stained with Dmo Xian's blood. But at this moment, the broken branch was completely clean, without a single trace of blood. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian looked at that broken branch for a moment, and both of them raised their heads at the same time, looking at each other as they spoke in unison. This is the method to break the array? Blood. That's right. It was fresh blood. This array was extremely sinister. It even used the revered Lord's blood to activate the array. So, as long as blood was used, it would be able to destroy this array core. In order to verify this thought, Yiqing Luo helped Dmo Xian to tie the handkerchief as she held the glower flame fan tightly and suddenly shot a hurricane towards that withered tree. The profound rays neared. The thick black chi which lingered around the withered tree bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it twisted upwards. Yiqing Luo leaped up and neared that withered tree from the other side. In a split second, the thick black chi surged and rolled. The dark sky was covered with a layer of hazy fog. Yiqing Luo's eyes turned slightly chilly as her fingers moved and the red profound rays turned into huge waves. The moment the thick black chi was attracted, Yiqing Luo was already nearing the withered tree. The minute she neared, Yiqing Luo felt a dull pain in her heart as a scorching flame started to burn fiercely. Oh! This burning heat was like a raging flame, scorching her internal organs. It was as if he was going to burn her into ashes. She groaned in pain. Her movement stopped in midair. Little Luo, Dmo Xian's worried voice drifted into her ears. The man's deep voice was like a warm current that seeped into her heart. It also alleviated the burning sensation in her chest that felt like it was being torn apart. She closed her eyes slightly. He steadied his mind. She turned around and looked in their direction, revealing a faint smile. The hurricane moved. The wind blew her hair, her dress. Like a blossoming rose, incomparably gorgeous. Clearly, his face was so pale. His brows were tightly knitted, as if he was enduring some sort of pain. But she was still smiling. His smile was firm, and it made one's heart surge with lofty sentiments. I'm fine, don't worry. Since I've promised to walk out of the auction in front of everyone, I've promised to destroy the Palace of Gloomy Darkness plan, so I'll definitely do it. Her voice was soft. It was like a feather fluttering in the wind, and it seeped into everyone's ears. After Yiqing Luo finished her words, she took a deep breath and forcefully endured the pain within her body which made her combusted and made her blood boil. He turned into a streak of light and approached the withered tree. The nearer he got. 3 steps, 2 steps, 1 step, Yiqing Luo felt that there was an indescribable impulse surging within her. As though it was summoning her. As though it was urging her to do something. Chapter 38-26. But immediately following that, a burst of raging profound energy suddenly gushed over. That profound glow was majestic as it shook the entire space. It was what Dmo Xian had mentioned. The helper outside the array. The helper over there had started a new round of attack. Yiqing Luo felt this surge of vibration profound energy attacking her. She instinctively wanted to evade it. But it was too late. The overwhelming profound glow poured down in torrents. Yiqing Luo's fingertips swept swiftly, creating a gust of strong wind to reduce some of the pressure. But what made her surprised was that majestic profound energy kept vibrating, but it didn't cause any harm to her at all. She didn't know if it was an illusion. She vaguely felt a sense of familiarity from this surge of profound energy. Just at this moment, a ray of black dazzling light pierced her eyes under the sky of profound glow. She frowned as she fixed her eyes on it. She saw a palm-sized black hole in the middle of the withered tree, which was emitting a black and dense aura. That black glow was different from the evil qi. But it was a kind of glow which could be seen by the naked eye. Pitch black, but dazzling. What was going on? Earlier she didn't seem to have seen such an eye-catching thing on the withered tree. It's right there. Lass, drip your blood on it. In her mind, Old Man Tsang cried out in surprise. His voice had just landed. Yiqing Luo only felt that the boiling blood in her body was boiling hot. As though it was about to gush out from her body. This was her blood. It was affecting her thoughts, making her drip her blood on that withered tree. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly. Immediately, she lifted her feet and walked towards the withered tree. Under that majestic profound energy vibration, Yiqing Luo slowly raised her arm. She waved her glower flame fan. Her fingertips hurt. Drops of fresh blood slid down, dripping into that black glow. The fishy and sweet smell of blood had a hint of fragrance. When the fresh blood fell into that black hole, rumble, Yiqing Luo's ears only heard a deafening explosion sound. Intense black glow shot out in all directions. Her entire body was entangled in it. Yiqing Luo only felt a squeezing sensation in her chest, causing her throat to gush out a fishy sweetness. It was as if something was tearing inside his body. The pain was unspeakable. But, under this extreme pain, Yiqing Luo actually faintly felt a ray of white light flashing past her mind. It flashed faintly. Something seemed to want her to catch it. She was just about to grab him. The white light disappeared in an instant. Tight and popped up in her mind again. It was as if something was deliberately attracting and seducing her. She concentrated and tried to adjust her consciousness. Bit by bit, she approached the white light. During the chase with the white light, even the pain from the pressure in his body was thrown to the back of his mind. Wisps of red light gradually passed through the thick black gas in the sky and poked their heads out. Boundless brilliance began to envelop the horizon. Everyone's vision was tightly fixed on Yiqing Luo. Right now, Yiqing Luo was their only hope. As long as Yiqing Luo succeeded, they would be able to leave this place. But in everyone's heart, they were perturbed and uneasy. The young lady's hand was pressed on that withered tree. Her eyes were tightly shut and her face was filled with obvious pain. The overlord's mood became increasingly gloomy by the side. He wanted to go forward to help but was held down by Gui Wu. Chapter 38-27. He was afraid that Yiqing Luo wouldn't be able to bear this kind of pain. He couldn't break out of the formation. In the surroundings, the majestic and ferocious dark force was still vibrating wave after wave. On the Nether Prime side, the thick black gas was still flowing along with the blood that was splattering everywhere. The formation eye and the various forces collided with each other. Yiqing Luo's face turned paler by the minute. Originally, he had fought several rounds of battles in the auction and was already exhausted. Moreover, in the space of consciousness, she had used too much power, which was extremely damaging to her body. Now, he was bleeding and suffering from the crushing pain of the withered tree. He chased after the white light in his mind again and again. Yiqing Luo only felt that her consciousness had gradually turned blank and started to blur. His four limbs felt heavy, as if they weighed 1,000 kilograms. That white light seemed to be teasing her. He stuck his head out. On the other side, it appeared indistinctly. She furrowed her brows and her body trembled slightly. His palm, which was pressed against the withered tree, felt a stinging pain. It was as if there was a suction force firmly sucking her palm. Her breathing also gradually became weaker. She couldn't help but furrow her brows as she felt the blood flowing out of her body. Hold on, hold on, hold on, there seemed to be a voice in his mind that kept repeating these three words. She no longer had the strength to discern the direction of the sound and the owner of the sound. She only knew that this voice caused her consciousness to become fuzzy, and then she suddenly woke up. Yiqing Luo's breathing became smoother bit by bit. He struggled to maintain his consciousness. Little Luo, Dmo Xian saw the changes in Yiqing Luo's expression as his eyes stared fixedly at Yiqing Luo. His face no longer had the usual noble elegance. His breathing was heavy, and his heart was clenched tightly. He wanted to step forward and help Yiqing Luo share her pain. However, Gui Wu's hand continued to press down on his shoulder. Dmo Xian was very clear. He could not go forward. He could not interrupt Lil Luo from breaking the formation. Lil Luo had already expended so much energy and put in so much effort to destroy the array eye. If he missed this opportunity, everything that Lil Luo had done, all the pain that she was suffering now, was all in vain. Furthermore, Lil Luo's personality. He understood it better than anyone else. If Lil Luo was awake, she would definitely not let him take the risk to come over. Little Luo, Little Luo, The repeated calls were transmitted into Yiqing Luo's ears, who was trying her best to stay awake. She pursed her lips and bit down hard on her lower lip. Until the smell of blood filled his mouth. Only then did she stop moving. The piercing pain made her vision blur. The white light in her mind flickered and floated in front of her. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed. It was almost instinctive. His consciousness wrapped around it as he searched around it. Boom! His sea of consciousness suddenly fluctuated. It was as if something had exploded. In front of Yiqing Luo, a vast expanse of white light flickered. Then, her body was like a feather, her legs weak and powerless. Boom! His mind buzzed again. Like a tidal wave, the profound strength surged wildly in his body. Wave after wave, they violently squeezed into the profound heart jade. The surging profound energy easily soothed the pain from the squeezing in her body. Replacing it was a relaxed feeling in both body and mind. The surrounding heaven and earth's spiritual qi encircled her body. Chapter 38-28. Boom, another roar was heard. Yiqing Luo's surrounding aura vibrated and turned into circles of ripples as it rippled outwards. Like a tide, the surging profound energy gradually turned into a whirlpool. The alluring red glow intertwined with that whirlpool. It enveloped the young lady's blazing figure. The whirlpool rolled wildly. The red glow was like fire. The aura surged like waves, one after another. This scene instantly caused all the profounders from the various powers to be flabbergasted. There was no way to conceal the shock on their faces. Is this an advancement? Imperial Madam. Imperial Madam actually advanced at the critical juncture of destroying the array core? Not advancement, it's a breakthrough. This is a breakthrough. The various powerhouses cultivators looked at the surging profound glow in the sky. There were large patches of thunder clouds as they gathered swiftly. The crowd was stunned. With thunder clouds, it wasn't just advancement, it was a breakthrough. One must know that a breakthrough was tens of thousands of times harder than advancement. Some people were stuck at the last stage of advancement and might not be able to break through in their entire lives. That was a leap from one profound grade to another. Exquisite Pavilion's two hall masters stared at Yi Qing Luo's direction as they voiced out the doubts in their hearts, from the aura of her breakthrough. It doesn't seem especially strong. Based on her status as Imperial Madam, this breakthrough should at least be into the legendary realm. Legendary realm, God Mystic realm. Once one stepped into the God Mystic realm, in layman's terms, it meant that one had cultivated to become a god. This was the target which many cultivators were striving for. In the various powerhouses cultivators' hearts, Yi Qing Luo's ability had definitely surpassed the God Mystic realm. She was a legend who was on par with the Overlord. But when they heard the two Exquisite Pavilion's hall masters' doubts, even he was a little stunned. Indeed, Yi Qing Luo's surrounding profound energy aura seemed ferocious. But in actual fact, it wasn't especially strong. Attracting thunder clouds was definitely a breakthrough. If it was a breakthrough, then it would be a breakthrough from one profound grade to another profound grade realm. Based on Yi Qing Luo's performance, Yi Qing Luo's ability should have long entered the spirit profound stage. But Yi Qing Luo had a breakthrough this time. Surely it couldn't be that Yi Qing Luo had broken through from the spirit profound realm to the strongest exalted profound realm, right? This was absolutely impossible. Looking at the entire world, it was said that the only person who had reached the exalted mystic realm was the divine emperor who had passed away a long time ago. After that, there was no news of a second person. Even Di Zun. Everyone's guesses about him were only at the divine profound realm. Then, the Lady Emperor's breakthrough this time was from the sage mystic realm to the immortal mystic realm, a breakthrough to become a god? Everyone's heart was still extremely shocked. In the earth realm, the majority of profound practitioners were around the early stage of the sage profound realm. Those who were able to reach the 5th level of the sage profound realm were already rare experts. Moreover, after reaching the profound sky realm and entering the myth realm, the profound sky realm's strength would increase tremendously. Every profound rank had 15 ranks to form a great profound rank. The Empress was so young, yet she was able to maintain her sage mystic profound rank 15 to deal with monsters that could wipe them out in a matter of minutes. She was also fighting against the majestic Yuzun. It was already very powerful. As long as Madame D succeeded in her breakthrough, Madame D had become even more powerful. They had even more hopes of leaving this broken array. Various powerhouses cultivators looked at Yi Qing Luo with eyes filled with hope. Just waiting for Yi Qing Luo to break through. After the profound qi went round and round, circulating a few rounds. Chapter 38-29. Immediately following that, clang, a sound was heard. Her profound aura fluctuated as it gradually calmed down. The bewitching red light was still shining brightly, swaying her alluring figure. Everyone's sight was fixated on Yi Qing Luo without blinking. They were all looking forward to witnessing the scene of a young lady breaking through the sage profound realm and stepping into the spirit profound realm. Stepping into the spirit profound realm and becoming a god was already a historical scene. Not to mention, and it was a young lady of Yi Qing Luo's age. It could be said that in the entire earth boundary, they had never seen one. When the profound glow which enveloped Yi Qing Luo's surroundings started to dissipate, their eyes were staring at Yi Qing Luo without letting go. But, when Yi Qing Luo retracted her hand from the dead tree and opened her eyes, everyone's surprised and shocked expression froze on their faces. Did they see wrongly? Yi Qing Luo's surrounding aura. Sage profound realm. But the aura of sage profound realm? There were quite a number of cultivators from large forces present with extremely high cultivation. They could easily sense Yi Qing Luo's aura after her advancement. Most importantly, Yi Qing Luo's surrounding sage profound aura was very unstable. This meant to say, Yi Qing Luo's breakthrough this time was not the so-called stepping into the spirit profound realm, but from the sky profound realm to sage profound realm. Everyone's expression became extremely complicated. Each of them looked at each other, unable to believe their own eyes. How could it be possible to break through to the sage profound realm? She was obviously so powerful. She was so powerful that they felt that only this woman could be a match for the Dizun. But her profound grade was actually so unexpected. Previously on Yi Qing Luo, they indeed only sensed an extremely weak profound aura. At that time, they thought, this was just Yi Qing Luo deliberately disguising her own strength. Unexpectedly. Was that true? Your expressions, what are you trying to express? A deep and husky voice, even if it was just a soft voice, it was extremely majestic. The moment the man opened his mouth, an invisible pressure was released. Everyone only felt a heavy pressure, pressing on their shoulders. Overlord, Overlord. Everyone's hearts sank as they spoke with trembling voices. Dmo Xian only lifted his eyelids, his eyes were very indifferent, his tone was also very indifferent. This Lord's woman, whatever profound grade she is, it's not up to you to tell her what to do. His voice paused slightly. He had a faint smile on his face as the corners of his mouth twitched. He looked a little sarcastic. Just you bunch of trash, and you have the nerve to be surprised by little Luo's profound grade? These words were filled with sarcasm. Everyone felt a chill down their spines. They lowered their heads and stood ramrod straight. Zhou Mo snorted frivolously as he continued Dmo Xian's words and ridiculed, a bunch of high-leveled scum. Now that you know that you can't even defeat a sky profound realm cultivator, don't you feel ashamed? Everyone's pupils constricted. Leaning against Gui Wu, Zhou Mo crossed his arms across his chest and smiled like a yuppie. Could it be that this young master is wrong? You're a bunch of trash. In the face of danger, you only know fear and panic, but you're not willing to do anything. Aren't you ashamed to let a 15-year-old girl, a girl whose profound rank is much lower than yours, protect you? In a few words, the profound practitioners of the various major forces were flushed with anger and their faces were flushed with anger. Chapter 38:30. They were indeed shocked by Yi Qing Luo's profound grade. They also thought that a profound grade like Yi Qing Luo shouldn't display that kind of sharpness. But they had neglected it. Yi Qing Luo was a young sky profound cultivator, but she relied on her own strength to save all of them. It made them feel from the bottom of their hearts, treating her as the only hope to break the array. So what if their profound grades were higher than Yi Qing Luo? So what if their abilities were above Yi Qing Luo? They were totally incomparable to a young lady. On Yi Qing Luo, profound grade wasn't important at all. Her potential, her ability, was the real reason why they were convinced. They shouldn't be here, pointing fingers at Yi Qing Luo's profound grade. Instead, they should reflect on themselves. Profound grade, powerful ability, so what? Unable to use their own strength, to do something that they thought was meaningful. What was the use of such power? They couldn't refute. They were indeed trash. After Yi Qing Luo opened her eyes, she heard Dmo Xian defending her and Zhou Mo's words. She didn't have any special feelings. To her, those people were just strangers. She didn't care about their thoughts. Following her breathing, she adjusted the profound qi that was still surging wildly in her profound jade heart. There was also the dark force that was continuously circulating in his body for a few days. She didn't expect He had actually broken through in one fell swoop at this critical juncture. Just now, the white dot that was swimming around in his mind, the white dot that was more naughty than a mantis shrimp, was the opportunity to break through. After she grabbed hold of that opportunity, she felt the change in her own body's aura. Finally broke through. Since the last time when she contracted with Black Tortoise, Dmo Xian had suppressed her advancement and breakthrough power. She had never come across this opportunity. It was all thanks to this array. It made her breakthrough extremely smooth. She closed her eyes and clenched her fingers. The profound chi that overflowed from her fingertips vibrated. Her heart was calm. Her mind slowly returned to peace. Profound chi was still surging in her profound jade heart circulation and her limbs and bones. Just at this moment, among the crowd below, someone suddenly exclaimed, "Look! Madame D is about to advance again. Her aura is starting to fluctuate again." These words caused everyone to suck in a breath of cold air. All of them turned their gazes towards Yi Qing Luo in unison. As expected, he saw Yi Qing Luo standing beside the withered tree, her eyes slightly closed. A ball of demonic red profound light enveloped her entire body. Boom! The air vibrated. The air rippled. F***CK. Sage Profound 2nd grade. No. He's at the 3rd level of the Sage Profound realm. F***CK. 4th rank, 4, When everyone sensed the change in Yi Qing Luo's surrounding aura, he was completely dumbfounded. This was even more shocking than knowing that Yi Qing Luo had just stepped into the Sage Profound stage. They could hardly believe their eyes. Was it really that easy to advance from the Sage Profound realm to the minor realm? Crossing 3 or 4 ranks in a matter of minutes? They weren't practicing the same mystic class system, were they? It took them 8 to 10 years to advance a grade. This young girl in front of him, swish swish swish. Chapter 38-31. Looking at the entire Earth realm, or even the upper realm. To be able to break through 3 or 4 grades consecutively at this age and at this profound grade. There was only Yi Qing Luo alone. Everyone's hearts were on the verge of collapsing. Where the hell did this pervert come from? Just based on Sky Profound 9th grade profound grade, she contracted 4 sacred beasts and a mutated mirage beast. And she had the ability to go against Lord Yu. Not only did she break through when she was breaking the array, she even broke several grades consecutively. Not only did she break through, she even broke through several grades consecutively. Everyone stared at Yi Qing Luo's devastatingly beautiful face, but her features were obviously young and tender. They felt that their hearts were about to explode. Comparing oneself to others was infuriating. They no longer dared to use their dog eyes to look down on others. Finally, Yi Qing Luo finally stopped steadily at the Sage Profound 4th grade's aura. The surging profound energy in her body finally stopped. This time, Yi Qing Luo was certain. She had really advanced completely. After the advancement, Yi Qing Luo felt a warm current of profound energy, slowly dispersing her earlier fatigue. Even the air seemed to have become purer and cleaner. She could even clearly sense the surrounding heaven and earth's spiritual chi. Finally, she took another step forward. She finally was one step closer to Ah Xian. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled upwards. When her long and narrow eyes opened, she looked at him. The corner of her eyes overflowed with a coquettish glow. As though a captivating poppy flower was hooked at the corner of the young lady's eyes. She slowly turned around, her back facing the crowd. Then she raised her hand. Everyone only had time to see clearly that pair of slender fair wrists flashed past. Immediately after, a powerful and terrifying force slashed towards the withered tree. At the same time, outside the formation, a majestic and tyrannical energy suddenly rose. Kacha, the dead tree broke into pieces. As of this moment, the collapsing, swaying auctions suddenly stopped. The sky full of dark clouds also dispersed at this moment, revealing the light on the horizon. Various powerhouses cultivators were like withered trees coming back to life, fish on the verge of death, seeing water, their faces revealed an expression of escaping death. The light shone on every corner of the auction. It also presented the entire ruins in front of the citizens of the land domain. At the moment when the formation was broken, Yang Kai's eyes lit up. The young girl was pressed into the man's arms. She could smell the elegant sandalwood scent of a man. It was reassuring. She curled her pink lips and wrapped her arms around the man's waist. "Ah, Xian, I did it. You know how it feels to be worried about me, yet you're willing to let me worry about you like this." Dmo Xian's arms tightened as he felt the soft body of the person in his arms and smelled the delicate fragrance of the person in his arms. His restless heart. Only then did he seem to have come back to life. Yiqing Luo raised her head, her eyes curved as she smiled and said, "This is my fault, so, tonight, I will obediently atone for my own mistake." His voice fell. She lowered her voice and smiled faintly. "Are you satisfied with this?" Dmo Xian's arms tightened again. Then, he pulled her away. He lowered his head and looked at her with a burning gaze. "Are you serious?" Yiqing Luo's eyes were still curved as she smiled and nodded. "I'm serious." His eyes deepened. He lowered his head and rested his chin on her shoulder. By the side of her ear was the man's deep and husky voice. "I've remembered it, this is what you said yourself." Yiqing Luo smiled as she hugged the man's back. Just as this sweet atmosphere surrounded them. Chapter 38-32. Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly lit up as she popped her head out from the man's arms. Outside the ruins, dust billowed as a slender figure slowly walked over. A lady dressed in a sea blue long dress entered Yiqing Luo's sight. Her looks were stunning and cold to the extreme. Like a winter plum blossom on an iceberg, proud and aloof. When the woman's beautiful eyes, which were overflowing with a faint blue light, met his eyes, his heart trembled. Yiqing Luo had already pushed Dmo Xian away and pounced towards the lady. "Little Qing Wu." That's right. The lady in front of her was Jun Qing Wu, who went to the upper realm to investigate the person behind the secluded palace. Ever since she left Nirvana realm, she and Jun Qing Wu had never met each other again. It turned out that the person who attacked the arrays was the helper that Dmo Xian mentioned. It was Jun Qing Wu. Yiqing Luo pounced forward and hugged the lady. The lady's cold face revealed a tinge of red. As though she wasn't used to being so close to someone. But looking at Yiqing Luo's joyous expression, the lady still didn't push Yiqing Luo away but raised her hand and gently hugged her back. This response made Yiqing Luo very surprised. One must know that her little Qing Wu was so cold and arrogant. She would never show any enthusiasm on the surface. To be able to hug her back, she had already given her enough face. The smile on Yiqing Luo's face bloomed even more brilliantly. "How did you know I was here? Did Xian tell you?" Yiqing Luo asked with a smile. Jun Qing Wu nodded. "The overlord informed me to rush over, but he didn't have time to tell me anything. By the time I rushed over, he had already entered the array." Yiqing Luo lowered her head as she gave an embarrassed smile. Xian must have been overly worried about her. Hence he couldn't wait any longer and rushed into the array to look for her after informing Jun Qing Wu. "Then, how did you know I was going to break the array? And you accurately found the array's eye and coordinated so well?" Earlier when she destroyed the array's eye, if it wasn't for the external force which allowed her to see the blind spot of the array's eye and drip her blood into that blind spot, they were probably still trapped in the auction. Moreover, she did not have enough opportunities to seize the opportunity to successfully break through. Jun Qing Wu looked behind her and said, "It's all thanks to your friend's timely arrival. Her battle pet provided me with an accurate solution." "My friend?" Yiqing Luo was slightly stunned when she heard that. He heard the word battle pet again. Yi Qing Luo subconsciously looked to the side, at Xiao Yin, who was hugging Qiu Qiu. A battle pet that came to help. It seemed that it was only this mutant beast of the Shadow Clan. Long time no see, Qing Luo can't even see my existence. The familiar tone, the familiar pause between each word, like a robot, emotionless and flat, rang in his ears. Yi Qing Luo looked over Jun Qingwu's shoulder. Not far away, he saw a petite girl dressed in a pink dumpling outfit. She looked very much like a little girl who had mistakenly entered a battlefield. Yi Qing Luo's eyes widened in joy. Shadow. Wasn't that person Mo Yuing? Who would have thought that she would actually come? Mo Yuing took small steps as she walked over. Then she raised her hands and tilted her head stiffly. Her empty and soulless eyes looked at Yi Qing Luo as she spat out a word, hug. Yi Qing Luo was melted by her cuteness. She immediately stretched out her arms and hugged Mo Yuing. Chapter 38-33. Mo Yuing learnt from Yi Qing Luo and hugged her back. Her tone was stiff as she replied word by word, worried about you. Meeting an old friend. Yi Qing Luo's brows were filled with smiles. She hugged Mo Yuing tighter. Thank you, Shadow. Mo Yuing stiffly nestled in Yi Qing Luo's arms, expressionless. But Yi Qing Luo knew that little Shadow was shy. She let go of Mo Yuing. Mo Yuing immediately grabbed her little hand. Jun Qingwu said to Yi Qing Luo, the people who came are not only the both of us, there are also those people over there. We might need to trouble you to head over there to investigate. As the two of them walked out of the auction, Yi Qing Luo then realized. Outside the auction, there were not only crowds of onlookers. There were also rows of neatly organized troops dressed in silver armor. The leader was someone whom Yi Qing Luo had met several times. The keeper of the balance historian. The historian of balance was here too. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows and exchanged glances with the historiographer. The official then walked over. Miss Yi, long time no see. He greeted them with a forced smile on his upright and plain-spoken face. His heart was broken. Every time something big happened, Yi Qing Luo would always be there. Every time he saw her, nothing good would happen. But, seeing Dmo Xian by the side, coupled with the current situation, the librarian suppressed the collapse in his heart as he smiled at Yi Qing Luo. However, Yi Qing Luo had no intention to appreciate it. She crossed her arms in front of her chest, and the corners of her mouth curled up. She said in a mocking tone, as expected. Every time something is over, the librarian lord will come over to clean up the mess. Being rebutted by Yi Qing Luo, the librarian's expression turned awkward. If someone hadn't reported it to the historian of balance. He didn't want to deal with this matter. What did he mean by they would only clean up after everything was over? Wasn't this just another way of saying that they were here to claim credit? Many of the court historians had dark expressions on their faces when they heard those words. Yi Qing Luo seemed as though she didn't notice it. Or perhaps, he sensed it but did not care about their emotions. Her expression was very calm as she lifted her eyelids. What do you want to ask? Hurry up and ask. The scribe suppressed the anger in his heart. There were so many citizens and profound practitioners from various forces watching. This matter would definitely become countless versions and be publicized. He took a look at Dmo Xian, restraining the sharpness in his eyes as he patiently replied, Miss Ye's words have really wronged us. He didn't give Yi Qing Luo a chance to open her mouth as he continued, this time's matter in the Earth realm. We didn't sense any fluctuations or presence from the Earth realm, so I think it should be isolated by this array. I had received a report from Miss June and immediately rushed over with my men. As he spoke, he looked at Jun Qingwu. Miss June can testify that when we rushed over, we were also stopped outside the array. Jun Qingwu furrowed her brows and looked into the eyes of the librarian. Finally, she nodded her head. Yi Qing Luo scoffed lightly, are you trying to prove your incompetence? To the historian of balance. Yi Qing Luo really couldn't muster up any good impression. Every time something happened, the historian of balance rushed over, but he could not completely solve the problem. He even handed over the dark forces to the historian of balance and brought them back to the heavenly Tao to be imprisoned. A bunch of historian of balance were still able to let the dark forces people escape, and even made the dark forces people join the Palace of Darkness. After the Palace of Darkness almost destroyed Nirvana realm, they even used some prophecy as an excuse. Now they had reached the Earth realm. Chapter 38-34. The librarian's brows creased as he looked at Yi Qing Luo with a chilly gaze. Qing Luo, you've just experienced a huge battle and need to rest. Jun Qingwu interrupted the turbulent undercurrent between the two of them. She looked at the historiographer and said coldly, "Historiographer, if you have any questions, please ask them as soon as possible. They are all very tired." Jun Qingwu intervened because she didn't want her to become enemies with the court official. Yi Qing Luo wouldn't not give Jun Qingwu face. She softened her expression and glanced at the librarian indifferently. This was planned by the Palace of Tenebrous Darkness. Their goal was to seal all the elite profound practitioners in the Earth realm here and cause unrest in the Earth realm. As for their purpose, the Keeper of Records should be clear about it. Hearing Yi Qing Luo's words, the face of the historiographer turned cold and serious. His ice-cold eyes flickered with a dignified and cold light. After a while, he said in a tense voice, "I understand." Yi Qing Luo pointed to the ruins of the auction. "There's someone who had been drained of blood inside, rumored to be the son of the mastermind behind the Palace of Darkness. Perhaps we might be able to get some information from him." The historiographer's gaze flickered. Immediately, there were historians who flew towards the direction which Yi Qing Luo pointed at. Dmo Xian had already walked over from behind, his long arm directly hooked onto Yi Qing Luo, as his tone was calm and apathetic as he spoke to the librarian. "As for other matters, go and ask those people. Lil Luo is already very tired." The scribe immediately lowered his head. "Yes." Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but laugh. She might as well just directly leaned into Dmo Xian's embrace. This feeling of bullying others wasn't bad at all. She was indeed quite tired. The moment Dmo Xian came over, Mo Yuing was squeezed to one side. Mo Yuing looked at her empty hand and looked at Dmo Xian who was carrying Yi Qing Luo. He tilted his head and thought for a moment. It was as if he was thinking about his chances of snatching the man from the hands of a venerable sovereign. In the end, he put his hand down. The chances of snatching him away were 0, so he was too lazy to make such a fearless choice. Mo Yuing was preparing to follow behind Dmo Xian and Yi Qing Luo. Suddenly, she felt a burning gaze that was tightly glued to her body. This feeling. He had sensed it ever since he broke the formation. But all her heart was on Yi Qing Luo, so she didn't pay too much attention to it. At this moment, the feeling of that gaze was even more intense. It was so strong that she couldn't help but pay attention to where this gaze was coming from. Mo Yuing didn't like this feeling. She stopped in her tracks and looked in the direction of his gaze. His line of sight stopped at a tall and handsome silver-haired man. The man's eyes were fixated on her without blinking. His gaze was deep and complicated. It was an emotion that she could not understand and was too lazy to understand. Mo Yuing's line of sight was fixed on the man's embrace. She stiffly raised her hands and stretched them out in the man's direction. The man's body suddenly stiffened, and there seemed to be a storm surging in his eyes. Even Pei Sheng, who was slow to react, was stunned. At this moment, all of them could feel the chilling aura emanating from their brothers. He was so close that he could clearly see the way his brother looked at the little girl. "Brother, are you really not afraid of scaring the girl away?" Pei Sheng was shivering at the side. The man holding the mutant beast suddenly moved. Qiao Yinyan stood up. His gaze was complicated as he stared deeply at Mo Yuing. After that, step by step, he walked towards Mo Yuing. Every step he took, The expression on his face became even more complicated. Chapter 38-35. Such an oppressive pressure. This caused Mo Yueying's expressionless face to stiffen into a frown. Her empty gaze swept across the man's face. He looked at the flowing silver hair swaying in front of his eyes as he walked. He suddenly felt a sharp pain in his head. His eyes felt a little painful. Such a feeling. Mo Yueying hadn't felt it for a long time. He didn't like this feeling either. Her hollow eyes stared at the man's chest, her arms shaking up and down stiffly. Her voice was stiff and emotionless like a repeater. "Qiu, come here." "Master." Qiu, who was struggling in Xiao Yinyan's arms, howled. Its four limbs struggled out of Xiao Yinyan's arms and pounced towards Mo Yueying. Mo Yueying hugged Qiu. Then, he stiffly hugged her in his arms, turned around, and left. Xiao Yinyan's footsteps immediately came to a halt. His dark eyes, which were filled with huge waves, stared at Mo Yueying's back view. The cold qi around his body became even more intense, almost freezing the surrounding air into ice. His whole body tensed up. He clenched his fists tightly. He seemed to be very angry. Even Pei Xing didn't dare to approach him. Yiqing Luo naturally felt the change in the atmosphere. While Mo Yueying was looking for Qiu, she stopped and waited for Mo Yueying. Then, she saw Xiao Yinyan's terrifying gaze as he looked at Mo Yueying. Rather, it was terrifying, however, that gaze wasn't filled with hatred or anything like that. Instead, it was the kind of gaze that was so complicated that no one could tell what kind of emotion it was. He could only see that. A whirlpool and a storm gathered in Xiao Yinyan's eyes. Why did Xiao Yinyan look at Mo Yueying like that? Especially, just now, when Mo Yueying stretched out her hands towards Qiu's expression changed. The aura around Xiao Yinyan grew even stronger. The whirlpool spun and the storm raged. But, amidst all these fierce and complicated emotions, there was also a kind of, it was very, very complicated, helplessness, compromise. After Mo Yueying carried Qiu away, Xiao Yinyan was like a wild beast that had gone berserk. This is, Yiqing Luo suddenly recalled what Gue Wu had said earlier. There was always someone in Xiao Yinyan's heart, there had always been a woman. Then, Xiao Yinyan didn't seem to want to talk about that woman. And the way Xiao Yinyan looked at Mo Yueying, and his attitude, could it be, the person in Xiao Yinyan's heart was Mo Yueying? No way. Yiqing Luo was struck by this heavenly thunder rumbling thought of hers until she was burnt on the outside and tender on the inside. Mo Yueying's attitude towards Xiao Yinyan, it seemed like she didn't know Xiao Yinyan. Yiqing Luo expressed that her gossipy heart was stirring. When Mo Yueying walked over with Qiu, she asked, "Shadow, do you know Xiao Yinyan?" "Who?" Mo Yueying raised her head and asked blankly. Yiqing Luo lifted her chin towards Xiao Yinyan's direction. "The person who has been watching you." "I don't know him." Mo Yueying answered very straightforwardly. "I don't like his eyes." Yiqing Luo, if Xiao Yinyan heard these words, it would really be a stab to his heart. She glanced at Xiao Yinyan before shifting her gaze back to Mo Yueying. She rubbed her chin and said, "But I feel that he seems to know you." Mo Yueying tilted her head as her expressionless stiff face revealed a troubled expression for the first time. "But, I don't know him." Yiqing Luo felt that she had to ask Xiao Yinyan why he kept staring at Mo Yueying. She was just about to call Xiao Yinyan over. Chapter 38-36. Mo Yueying. These three words were filled with hostility. However, it was also mixed with another indescribable meaning. Moreover, Xiao Yinyan's expression was so complicated that it was hard to understand. How did he know your name? Yiqing Luo pointed at Xiao Yinyan. Her heart was even more certain of her previous guess. Mo Yueying shook her head stiffly. "I don't know." Yi Qing Luo clicked her tongue as she narrated the drama that she had imagined. The way he looked at you made me feel that. There was once a touching relationship between the two of you, then you heartless woman abandoned him. Mo Yuing was expressionless as she blinked her empty eyes. No. Yi Qing Luo knew that Mo Yuing would not lie, nor would she lie because of such a matter. She could tell that Mo Yuing really didn't know Qiao Yinyan. And she didn't have a good impression of Qiao Yinyan. Could it be? Qiao Yinyan recognized the wrong person. Yi Qing Luo felt that the possibility was very high. Why? After becoming Godless Island's island sage, you don't even dare to greet me? Qiao Yinyan's cold eyes stared at Mo Yuing without blinking. His tone was filled with ridicule. Yi Qing Luo suddenly felt. This was really a big show. He even knew that Mo Yuing was Godless Island's island sage. It looked like there was really some unspeakable secret between Qiao Yinyan and Mo Yuing. And from Qiao Yinyan's tone, it was filled with ridicule, but even more so, self-deprecation. Yi Qing Luo expressed. The secret between the two was very complicated. After hearing Qiao Yinyan's words, Mo Yuing finally reacted. She slowly turned her head back, her empty eyes fixed on Qiao Yinyan. After a long time, she asked, "Who are you?" She stared at him for so long. She was sizing up Qiao Yinyan's face. But in her memory, Mo Yuing didn't think that she knew him. When Mo Yuing asked this question, Qiao Yinyan's face instantly turned pale. His dark pupils were filled with whirlpools as he stared at Mo Yuing. His eyes were filled with pain and anger. What a good, who are you, ha ha ha. You actually asked me. Who am I? Qiao Yinyan couldn't help laughing. But that laughter was filled with pain. Mo Yuing lifted her feet and walked towards him. Step by step, she walked up to Qiao Yinyan and came to a stop. She didn't even reach Qiao Yinyan's shoulder when she stood in front of him. As Mo Yuing got closer, Qiao Yinyan's aura was constantly changing. Raging waves of qi waves, wave after wave equals fierce surging. But just as Mo Yuing neared, all the storms calmed down. Mo Yuing raised her head to look at him. The expressionless, empty eyes rolled around and blinked. Then, with a serious tone, he said, "I'm sorry, I really don't know who you are. If I accidentally forgot about you, I apologize in advance." Then, he asked again, "How do you know me? You even know my identity?" The smile on Qiao Yinyan's face gradually froze. He stared at Mo Yuing. Keep staring. Especially when he saw Mo Yuing's pair of beautiful eyes that were so dark that they were so deep that they were devoid of any emotion. His expression finally changed a little. "You," Qiao Yinyan frowned and looked at Mo Yuing suspiciously. "You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories."